The ones who carry the true sign don't speak of it. They bleed in silence. They war in shadows. And yet hell knows their name. You wouldn't recognize them in a crowd. They don't demand attention. They don't flash status. They walk like exiles, but move like generals. Because the sign they carry is not inked on flesh, but burned into the soul. You felt it. That quiet ache when no room feels like home. That strange distance, even in a crowd. That sense that something is watching your steps, training your spirit, wounding you just enough to keep you awake. You try to shake it off. You try to fit in, smile like they do, settle like they did. But your bones won't let you, because there is a mark, a weight, a pressure that doesn't crush but carves. It shows up in the loneliness you can't explain, in the closed doors that felt personal, in the prayers you whispered in the dark, and the answers that came in fire, not comfort. You thought it was punishment. You called it delay, rejection, failure. But what if it was the proof that you were never meant for common ground, because your feet were forged for holy ground? The sign is not loud. It does not shout. It waits. It watches how you carry pain in silence, how you keep showing up, how you refuse to bow when ease calls your name. And those who carry it, they lose crowds, but they gain clarity. They stop begging for seats and start building altars. This is not popularity. This is power. This is not charisma. This is consecration. You have walked wounded. You have prayed dry. You have stayed faithful in silence. And maybe that's the clearest sign of all. Not that you were abandoned, but that you were chosen. If that's you, if you know this ache, then this space was carved for your kind. Subscribe. Not out of hype, but because you recognize the sound of your own call. And if you can't bring yourself to subscribe, say it in the comments. But don't pretend you weren't marked. You are not too late. You are not too tired. You are not too broken, too old, too soft, too silent. You are thunder, hidden in silence. You are lightning, restrained by obedience. You are a sentinel at the gate, a living altar, a walking contradiction to everything this world celebrates and everything hell fears. You weren't made for spotlight. You were carved for the shadows where battles are won in prayer, where kingdoms rise or fall depending on your yes. You weren't passed over. You were set apart. The rooms that didn't open for you were too small for the weight you carry. The applause that never came was mercy, not rejection. Because those who carry this sign are not assigned to platforms. They are assigned to principalities. Your life was never random. That ache in your gut, that sleepless wrestling at midnight, those silent tears in the back of the room. They were not weakness. They were evidence. You've been marked for confrontation, not comfort. Marked to tear down strongholds, not to decorate stages. Marked to walk into dark places and not flinch, to hold the line when everyone else folds. You were not born to entertain the masses. You were born to disturb the kingdom of darkness. And yes, it is lonely. Yes, it is heavy. Yes, some days you wonder if the cost was worth it, but there is a fire in your bones that will not let you quit. And that fire, it's not your own, it's heaven's fingerprint. Proof that your name was known before you ever learned to crawl. That your life was prophesied long before it was popular. You have been trained in silence, tested in secret, and now you are being summoned, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs those who carry weight. It needs those who've been forged in fire and still believe, still pray, still stay. Even when no one is watching, you are not forsaken, you are marked, and the time to hide is ending. If your heart burned during this section, if something inside you rose up and refused to stay quiet, then you're one of us, one of the marked. Don't scroll away, subscribe now, or explain to us in the comments why your fire has gone out. You don't fall in one day, you drift, slowly, quietly, until the roar inside you is a whisper you barely remember. The war doesn't always come dressed in blood and fire. Sometimes it wears your friend's voice. Sometimes it sounds like a compliment. Sometimes it feels like love. The most dangerous battles are the ones no one sees. the ones waged in your own mind, in the stillness after the noise fades when the crowd is gone, and only God is left. You dim your light to keep others warm. You say it's humility, but really, it's fear. Fear that shining too bright will expose how dim others have become. Fear that obedience will make you look arrogant, so you shrink. You soften your edge. You pretend not to see what you were born to confront. But listen carefully. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out, like a sword drawn in a time of war. The fire in you isn't for decoration, it's for direction. Then there's the slow erosion called applause. You trade your sword for claps. You silence the cry in your spirit just to hear the approval of people who don't even carry oil. You become addicted to being seen, liked, understood. And before you realize it, you're feeding on validation instead of revelation. You start doing the right things, for the wrong reasons. Ministry becomes performance. Prayer becomes routine. And you begin to starve. Because here's the truth. What feeds your pride will starve your power. And what about the lie of busyness? You pour and pour and pour. You say yes to everything. You serve until your bones ache. But somewhere along the way, you forgot to drink. You forgot to sit at his feet. You forgot the difference between working for God and walking with him. Now you're empty, and no one notices. Because empty vessels still echo, but only full ones overflow. Then there's the hardest one to detect. Theological numbness. You've studied the word, memorized it, quoted it. But somewhere along the way, you stopped burning for it. It became a text, not a sword. Information replaced intimacy. And the truth, the beautiful, wild, terrifying truth, became just another lecture. You used to tremble, now you explain. And perhaps the most seductive trap of all, compromise, disguised as kindness. You say you're being patient. You call it loving well. But deep down you know, you've been tolerating what should have been torn down. You've allowed things in your space, in your spirit, that carry death. Because you didn't want to seem harsh. But understand this. Hell doesn't need you to bow. It just needs you to blur the lines. It just needs you to stay quiet while wolves wear the skin of sheep. You were never called to be polite to demons. You were called to cast them out. And all of this, every single trap, is aimed at one thing. Your fire. To smother it, to distract it, to water it down until it flickers then dies. But you feel it, don't you? The ache, the sting, the holy discomfort. That's not guilt, that's grace. Exposure is mercy, because what you won't confront will quietly conquer you. So if even one of these hit home, if even one of these called you out, don't look away, subscribe. That exposure was grace, and grace demands a response. But if none of this stirred you, if your soul stayed still through it all, tell us in the comments. What's keeping you from facing what's stealing your power? You're not broken. You're built. Built by the very storms that tried to bury you. Built by the silence you thought would suffocate you. Built by the wilderness that felt like punishment, but was really preparation. You're not behind. You're becoming. Let that truth sink into your bones, because the enemy didn't fight you for where you were. He fought you for where you're going. You're not wounded. You're weaponized. That ache in your chest, that's not weakness. That's the weight of glory pressing through. Look at Moses, a fugitive, 40 years in the desert, 40 years of obscurity, of self-doubt, of wandering. But when the time came, he didn't show up with a crown. He showed up with a rod and fire. He was exiled, but not empty. And when God called, he didn't speak to the man Moses had become. He spoke to the fire that never went out. Now Paul, thrown into prison, beaten, bruised, forgotten, and yet he wrote the letters that built the church. He didn't need a pulpit. He had chains, and they couldn't stop the word from flowing. He wasn't sidelined. He was being seated, not on a stage, but in dominion. And Anna? They called her old. They said her time was past, but she stayed in the temple, day after day, fast after fast, prayer after prayer. And when the Messiah entered the room, she saw him, not the priests, not the scholars, her. You want proof that scars don't disqualify you? You just heard it. Because in the kingdom, experience equals dominion. What tried to silence you actually gave you language for the next generation. What broke you actually built your discernment. What embarrassed you actually purified your calling. You've been looking at your pain like it's a problem. It's not. It's a blueprint, a scroll, a weapon custom forged for a war you haven't even seen yet. Every scar is a verse God intends to preach, but He can't use what you keep hiding. You thought this season meant your decline. You thought your silence meant disqualification. But what if I told you, this is your divine appointment? You've been hiding like David in the fields. You've been weeping like Hannah in the temple. You've been watching from the shadows, thinking your time has passed. But it hasn't. It's about to begin, because compromise might make you feel safe. But it never moves heaven. Conviction feels lonely, yes. But it shakes kingdoms. It splits seas. It opens prison doors. It wakes dry bones. And this fire in you? It wasn't meant to be managed. It was meant to invade. So stop looking for applause. Start looking for alignment. Stop asking for platforms. Start burning on the altar, because the world doesn't need another influencer. It needs intercessors. It doesn't need charisma. It needs consecration. This is not your end. This is not your fall-off. This is not your "I guess I'll settle here" season. This is the threshold, the moment where your scars turn into scrolls, where your wilderness becomes a weapon, where the voices that said, "You're too late, you're too much, you missed it," get silenced by the God who says, "I'm just getting started with you." So if you're ready to stop hiding, if you're ready to stop shrinking, if you're ready to look your story in the eye and say, "Use it all, God," then this is your moment. Subscribe. If not, if you're still clinging to shame, if you still believe the lie that you're too scarred to be anointed, then tell us in the comments. Why are you still hiding what God is trying to anoint? Guard your oil. Protect your fire. This world will not do it for you. It will drain you, distract you, demand from you, and then ask why you're empty. But you were not made to leak. You were made to burn. And to burn with consistency, you must build with conviction. Set sacred boundaries, without apology. You're not rude. You're not selfish. You're set apart. There are places you can't go anymore. Conversations you can't linger in. People you must love at a distance. Because your flame is not up for negotiation. Your silence? It's not weakness, it's warfare. You don't argue with darkness. You carry light. And light doesn't explain itself. It just exposes. Say no without guilt. Because every no to distraction is a yes to destiny. Your no is holy ground. It builds altars where others waste time. You don't owe everyone access. You don't owe everyone explanation. You owe God obedience. That's it. That's the line. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you cold. Let them walk away. You're not losing people. You're gaining clarity. The smaller the circle, the clearer the voice. God didn't whisper to Moses in the crowd. He whispered from the mountain, the lonely place, the consecrated place. Many follow crowds, but few carry crowns, and crowns aren't given in public. They're formed in private. In the quiet, yes. The secret, fast. The midnight prayer, no one applauded. Consecration isn't isolation. It's not punishment. It's preparation. When Esther was called to the palace, she didn't step in with perfume and politics. She stepped in after months of hidden preparation, alone, unknown, but not unassigned. When John the Baptist cried out in the wilderness, they didn't recognize his voice because it was loud. They recognized it because it was heaven's echo. You want to shake your generation? Then guard your secret place like it's your life, because it is. The enemy isn't after your title. He's not even after your gifts. He's after your oil. That slow-built, heaven-kissed fire that only comes from time spent with God when no one is watching. So ask yourself, who's touching your oil? What's wasting your fire? Where are you bleeding energy on things that don't carry eternity? Draw the line. This is the season for holy boundaries. Not bitterness, not pride, but holy clarity. Let the invitations sit unanswered. Let the messages go unreplied. Let the crowd wonder why you went quiet. Because when you come out of this season, you won't just talk different. You'll walk in fire. Only the brave can walk alone and stay lit. Only the consecrated can carry heaven without leaking it into man's opinions. If that's you, if you're choosing the narrow path, the lonely place, the set-apart flame, subscribe. If not, if you're still chasing wide roads and wide praise, drop your excuse in the comments and see how many others have been fooled into thinking compromise was community. ChatGPT said, "Your hidden life preaches louder than you realize. Every quiet moment of obedience, every whispered prayer in the dark, it's not just for you, it's echoing. Through bloodlines you haven't met, through generations yet unborn, your yes, it reaches beyond your sight, it settles deep in the bones of your children's children. Do you feel that weight, that sacred pull? It's not pressure, it's purpose. Hell trembles not at your noise, but at your surrender. At the moment, you lay down your distractions, your fears, your doubts, and say, 'Not my will, but yours.' The sign you carry, the quiet fire within you, is not for this moment alone. It's a beacon for what's coming. You are a lighthouse for storms yet to rage, a seed planted for a harvest you will never fully see. The world may not recognize you now. They may dismiss your silence. They may mock your weight. But God is writing your legacy in the fabric of time itself. You are not just living. You are becoming a movement, a line in the history of redemption. Your hidden faith is louder than megaphones. Your hidden life is revolution. If your yes is bigger than your comfort, bigger than your fears, bigger than yourself, then don't just watch legacy happen. Become legacy. Subscribe. If your yes is for more than today, more than applause, more than recognition, then step into the promise with us. If not, explain in the comments why you're okay being forgotten. You are marked, not by chance, not by accident, but by divine design. You are dangerous. Dangerous to the darkness that lurks in shadows, dangerous to the lies that chain nations, dangerous to the complacency that kills souls. You are not fading, you are becoming flame. Feel it rise in your chest, the fire that won't be quenched, the holy heat that burns away the dross, the fear, the doubt, the smallness that the world tried to bury. You were born to disrupt, not to decorate, not to fit in some quiet corner, but to break through walls, to shake foundations, to ignite revival in dry bones. Don't apologize for being chosen. Don't whisper your purpose in shame. Rise, rise with the roar of a lion, with the authority of a king, with the holy fire of a prophet. The sign you carry, it's not for the crowd, it's for the battle. It's a call to arms for the soul, a mantle laid heavy on shoulders ready to bear it. You don't wear it for applause. You wear it to overthrow darkness. Let your yes shake hell. Let your breath rattle the veil between heaven and earth. This is your sacred assignment, your destiny forged in fire. The war is not outside you, it is within you, but also beyond you. And you, chosen warrior, are the key. This isn't entertainment. It isn't a show or a story for distraction. This is your reminder, your awakening. Subscribe now if you carry the sign. If your heart burns with the fire of purpose, if your spirit knows the weight of calling, then join the ranks. But if you refuse, if you turn away, if you silence your roar, then speak. Comment below. Say why. Say why you would quiet your voice when the world is burning.